introduction, library spaces such as the student-led editorial board have come to life by mere conversation and purpose. As editors-in-chief, we've seen all members of the Ed Board find their voice in space as the world gets more foreign and insidious. Furthermore, library assignments, such as the appointment of student librarians, has given students a newfound appreciation for books, as well as the behind the scenes of the library space. All in all, through these powerful experiences, education for life has held true.
As we welcome all of you to the Library Conclave of 2023, we'd like to give you an overview while simultaneously highlighting the purpose of the event. The Conclave is a day-long program consisting of several workshops designed to showcase certain library practices, followed by library educators from all over India. The purpose is to make libraries spaces of growth and contemplation, to allow creative expression to thrive, and to widen the scope for connection. This conclave is for those who hold libraries close to them by attaching a meaning to what they represent.
As we explore the word purpose and all that it stands for, we'd like to invite Gopal Sir, a keynote speaker for today. Gopal Sir is our CEO. His faith in education, being a transformative tool, has allowed him to diversify into the various facets of the same. Sir has been actively involved with the library initiatives, and he's been a frequent smiling face, pushing our team to achieve greater heights. We look up to his words of wisdom, not solely because of what they stand for, but also because they resonate with us as student leaders.
So, thank you, Gopal. So, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Kadisa, Navya, Liferarion Association, and all the librarians who are here and those who cherish books and libraries. Can I have a show of hands of those who cherish books, libraries, or librarians? I suppose it's all of us here. So thank you so much for asking me to share some thoughts with you. It's a privilege. Usually, whenever I have to speak, there's always a bit of nervousness when you start. And when I got up today, interestingly, there was more excitement than nervousness. Simply because books have been my life. And yesterday, I was bargaining with Kirti ma'am. I don't think I need 25 minutes, maybe 5-7 minutes is enough. There's not so much to say, and we have a workshop. Can you hear me at the back? Can you? Okay. So yesterday I was trying to bargain for less time, but when I got up, I said there's so much to talk about. So maybe, but I will figure 20 minutes? 20 minutes? Okay. Because there is kinship with this group, biradari lagta hai. So it looks easier to have this little conversation, and I'm guessing I'm the oldest in the room, so maybe I don't feel so bad about passing on some of the things which have happened for me in the world of books and in the world of reading, and how that's impacted my life. And in so many ways, I think that's what we are attempting to do through our libraries and through our reading culture, as to how we can transform the lives of the children who come into our school libraries. I suppose that's the major purpose of what we are trying to do over this one day. Also learning from our own experiences and practices, which is what the sessions will be about, and see what we can take back with us as practices. So one of the things I've always believed in is अगर कुछ याद रखना है, you need to take something away, always carry a notebook and pencil. Because if you don't write, it sounds nice when you hear, but in 20 minutes we start forgetting half of it, in 1 hour we forget 80% of it. So there are practices that you hear, which is good from somebody else. Let's see if we can just put it together and do that. So one was about time. Second is when Kirti ma'am said I could stand here, I realized I don't have to give a bhashan. Maybe I'm going to make this a bit interactive. How many of you are outside the Shivnada school, not from Shivnada school? Okay, that's 40, 50 people, so maybe more. I always distribute chocolates. That's for you who don't know. So if there's anything we say which resonates, then you get chocolates also. Okay, so here we go. That's me in my favorite place, which is the world of books. And yesterday I was again in the library and wondering why I'm not spending more time here, and why am I actually buying books when I can be in this world where you can take so many books away and discover so many new books that you can ever stuff in your own home. That's what libraries are for. You can't buy every book that you want, you can't even see every book you want, but library is a place where you can go to genres that you haven't explored, which don't come to you naturally. You would probably go to Amazon and pick up books that you like, or go to a library, a bookshop, and go to the sections that you like, but a library is a place you can explore new genres and new subjects, right? So that's why it's so wonderful. This was my earlier life. I spent about 30 years in the army, and you'll wonder what is an army man talking about books, right? But in the Indian military, we read prolifically. I think all across the armies of the world, we read a great deal, because we do realize that books are our pathways to connections. Interconnectedness, what we call interdisciplinarity, happens through actually books. It's through reading and talking that you start connecting. You can be an expert in one subject. But for example, psychology as a subject has moved. I was moving very rapidly from being an art to a science, because brain research is taking us so ahead. So if you're in the domain of psychology and you don't know what's happening in brain research, then you're really not in the space of psychology, because it's changing so rapidly. So there are connections with everything. You can't talk about water without talking about environment. You can't talk about water and environment and not understand development and the conflict that seems to be happening. So I think all these are areas that we pick up through what we do in the world of books. You may also wonder what we do with books up there. This is Yachin Glacier, and it's about 20,000 feet. I had the privilege of serving there. But even there, in that pack that we carry up, is this loud enough or is it too loud? It's okay. Even there we carry, the people who read will carry at least 2-3 books with them, and they'll ask helicopters to drop more books rather than drop meat and food and cornflakes and chocolates and stuff that we get. But it becomes a lifeline. Getting a newspaper up there is like this big thing, because 20-30 years ago we didn't. Obviously even now I don't think there's internet and access to phones, but this is how we sort of keep connecting with the world. So I thought I'll just share a few quotes. By the way, do you think you're challenged by ChatGPT, librarians and libraries? Are you challenged? Do you think among the 36% of jobs which will go with librarians lose their job? No? You're sure? So actually I read somewhere recently, but librarians, let me tell you, are not in the top 10 jobs which are going to go away. Right? And I did something really interesting yesterday. My phone is on there. I think I left my phone. So I'll share with you my favorite quote, but just to, has everyone tried ChatGPT? Raise your hands to those who have, and those who haven't so far, not yet tried ChatGPT. Please raise your hands, okay? So do try ChatGPT. It will surprise us every single time. Let's not know about it. Let's not know about it. Okay? So yesterday went to ChatGPT. I said, tomorrow I'm speaking for 20 minutes to a group of 80 librarians about the power of library and books. Give me some pointers. It took all of 3 minutes, and it was mind-boggling, because I started worrying that I'm going to stop thinking, because I love public speaking, but it makes me think more than what I say. For me, it's what it does to me. It makes me think about books and libraries and what does it mean to a school and what are the best practices we can do, because I'm thinking. But ChatGPT took 20 seconds to tell me. Title: The Transformative Power of Books and Libraries. Just give me a title. Introduction: grab their attention with an engaging opening, such as a thought-provoking quote, which you're going to see now, about books or libraries. Introduce yourself and establish your connection with books and libraries, emphasizing your passion for the subject. I hope I'm doing that. Express your gratitude for the opportunity to speak to such a distinguished audience of librarians. Thank you so much. I haven't finished. ChatGPT is also not finished, actually. Personal connection with books. But broadly, the story is ChatGPT does all this stuff, right? We've got to reinvent ourselves. But librarians, don't worry, because you're treasures, right? But your treasures if you do more than accounting for books. When we started Shivnada schools, one of the things, I don't know if you know, many of you are from international schools, but the CBSE asked for 4 names of people who will be part of the school. One is obviously the principal, but there is also the librarian among the 4 names that they say before you start a school, and that librarian has to be library qualified. Are you aware of that? Yeah. I don't know if it's true in IB schools and international schools, right? And the librarian who's library qualified, in the good old days, you were qualified to account for books. And you think accounting for books is your job. Accounting for books is the last of your jobs. It's about building a library culture, and that's what I think the conference is about, and how you build that culture of reading and enthusing people in large numbers to love books. So what if you lose a few? I think that's what we should be sort of looking at. But it's interesting what ChatGPT is doing, by the way. I was also blown away yesterday. So before that, I'd already thought of the quote, before ChatGPT, okay? This is one of my favorites. You should always probably use this. Those who read are those who lead, right? It's so true. It's a truism which is so deep that you cannot be in any sort of leadership position if you don't read widely. There's something on this which I have taken forward, which is more Hindi, but everybody has heard of it. Jaisa Raja, Vaisa Praja. Principal पढ़ते हैं तो स्कूल पढ़ेगा, प्राइम मिनिस्टर पढ़ते हैं तो देश पढ़ेगा, प्राइम मिनिस्टर नहीं पढ़ते हैं तो देश नहीं पढ़ेगा, right? So you can count the people that you've had as prime ministers and chief ministers and principals, and you will know whether it's a country with respects intellect. And the wiser you are, the more humble you will be. The less read you are, the less humble you will be. I don't know if you've heard of something called the paradox of learning. Have you heard of the paradox of learning? Can I explain to you? So the paradox of learning is like a circle. If everything that we know is inside the circle, everything that we don't know is obviously on the circumference. Correct? तो छोटा सर्कल है तो circumference भी छोटा है. ज़्यादा ज्ञान होगा तो सर्कल बड़ा होगा, because you're learning more as it happens from grade 5 to grade 7 to grade 8. But what happens as the circle becomes bigger to the circumference? It becomes bigger. So what you don't know becomes bigger, because as you know more, you know that you know less. As we know more, we know that we know less. जिसको कम पता है वो समझता है, सब जानता है. So leaders who read a lot, know a lot, become humble because they know less. They know that more we know, the less we know. Have you heard the paradox of learning? Have you heard of it before? If you want to use it, please give me the copyright because I'm the one who does it. Okay. So that's the paradox of learning. Those who read are those who lead, right? Otherwise you will have wrong leaders if you don't read. And there are only 3 ways to learn. That's the first chocolate question. Anyone other than Shivnara School? There are only 3 ways to learn in my way of looking at things. Anyone other than Shivnara School? The last R is read. But what are the first and second? The first way to learn, the best way to learn ever is to travel. Is to travel. Travel? So please clap, we've got travel. And the second best way to learn ever. Interact with people. Interact with people. So all the chocolates are going to front. Because we cannot travel all the time and we cannot interact with people all the time. But what we can do all the time is to read, because it opens our minds to the world. It opens our minds to the past. It opens our mind to the possible future. It opens our mind to geographies beyond where we can ever reach. Right? Should not every child who is at least, say, 10 years old, not have a book which says all the countries of the world, pictorial, Darlington, Kingsley, DK, 700 rupees on Amazon, 700 rupees, hardbound. When I was 25, these books used to cost 2,000 rupees those days, when my salary was 5,000 rupees. But I used to buy them on installments. Today these books were 700 rupees. Like DK series, I have no idea how they make money. Right? Because 700 rupees. All the countries of the world. If you grow up as a 10-year-old with a book which has all the countries of the world and the map and all the cultures and the photographs and the animals and the birds, you'll be so enthused to travel and go to all those places. So what books and sport mean to me, and which means to any one of us, is that acronym at the bottom, and if you crack it, you get 2 chocolates. And this Shivnara School can try, because I haven't done this with you before. What anything means to us depends on that little acronym. Wow. So when you look at anything that so I'll give you an example. I'm 63. I have played sport 5 days a week, every single day. I make sure that I play 5 days or run or walk or cycle or do something. It's my life along with reading. So one day my wife, who's a teacher principal, was irritated by my disappearing at 6:15 because she leaves at 7, so I don't get to see her when she comes back, or she leaves because I'm off to play badminton. She was angry. She spoke to me in the morning and said, "It's as if your badminton is more important than spending time with me in the morning." So my instant reaction in my head was, yes it is. But of course you don't say those to your wife. But I didn't say it to my wife, but my answer I never forget. I said, yes it is, no? Because it is. So I'm willing to give up that morning with my wife to say, I will do my sport. So when you look at your books and your book collection and your children and ask them, what are you willing to give up? So when the iPhones came, the wonderful iPhones which all of the 3 other members of my family have, so when I say something bad about iPhone, don't worry, they have them, I don't. So I looked at the iPhone and it's 70,000 rupees. My Samsung phone, which cost 15,000 rupees, is good enough. So I made quick calculations. which is 55,000 balance, 500 rupees a book, which is 110 books. I said, no way. I'd rather have 110 books than iPhone. I'm willing to give up the iPhone for whatever advantage it has. So I think we have to look at it like that. And I go to a home, a wonderful home, people I like, but I quickly see, are there books in the house? If there are not books in the house, I don't think I like to go there again and again. I don't think I'll really have a great conversation. So you have to tell your children, how many books do you have? And I go to the library and do ask children, young, how many books do you have other than textbooks? The good librarian should be taking track of it. And let there be little competition saying that. Now, the thing is, for families like me, I picked up a few books from my library. This is presented to Dr. Karunakaran, which is my father, on the occasion of his passing the intermediate by his loving father, which is my grandfather, in 1944. Okay. Now, the thing is, this book, I wanted to try this because I'm coming to you today, saying which is the oldest book I have in my collection. So when I walk around the country and the world, this is called Self-Culture, 1883. That's 140 years old. And yet it says, but while you learn your little book thoroughly, you must be aware, reading it by the method of mere cram. Beware of the method of reading it by the mere cram. Some things, no doubt, there must be appropriated by the process of cram, but these are not the best things, that they contain no culture. Cram is a mere mechanical operation of which a reasoning animal should be ashamed. Right? But this book is on the culture of the intellect. It's 130 years old. Right? So for families like me, reading is nothing big. It's not an achievement. We were born with books. We were born with books everywhere. You as librarians have to say, who are the children who are not born with books around them? Can I convert them? Can I give them the joy of reading and saying this is going to be your life, because your children are also going to read. Right? So one of the things I say to nursery parents is, are you a reading family? Do you want your children to be reading? They say yes. Then you better start reading. When you go to a mall, go to the bookshop. So sorry to say this, I am a North Indian, grown up in North India, supposedly born in South India, but I am North Indian in every way. But you go to South India and go to North India, you go to a mall, you'll find bookshops in South Indian malls, you will find chaat pakoras in North Indian malls. Not enough bookshops, but there are bookshops. You have to go there. You start taking your children, you tell your children in school that on a weekend, which bookshops did you go? Right? Which libraries did you go? Right? And therefore we need a lot more libraries, of course, but so it means a lot to me. I'm willing to give up a lot, and ask your children what are they willing to give up. So I'll just, I did this yesterday. I said, let me just share a few books. If any one of you have read every one of the books I'm putting together, which are some of my favorite books, you will get like 3 chocolates. It's unlikely, but because everybody has their own taste and interest, okay? Okay, so first was many comics and enlightenment. Okay, so one everybody is getting. That's how you start, because it gives you pictures, it gives you stories, and enlightenment was a different world, but what a storyteller. Not very popular today because of a lot of reasons, but what a storyteller. My first encyclopedia, right? Because the first encyclopedia, every child as librarians, you must put it in a corner and say, grade 5 mothers and fathers, children, get this copy, right? Because it tells you a story in pictures, and single volume encyclopedias. The Gandhiji pictorial book. I loved this book when I was a kid because it told me about his fight with his or rather his disagreements with his mother, about his traveling abroad, and the kettle story. Remember the kettle story, and telling the inspector, don't tell me the spelling, I'm okay, I will do it without knowing the spelling, and the punishment, and the throwing out of the train in South Africa. When you see all that pictorially, you start wondering about this man, right? And later on you realize what an incredible human being he was, but connected to those early pictorial books that you had. The Gita. Yes. Yes. So, the Gita everybody is fascinated by. I must confess I am not religious. I am not a religious person. I don't believe in God. But I love the religious books, and I love all the prophets and all the wonderful wise people who propagated religion. So whether it's Mahabharata or Ramayana or Islam or Christianity or Buddhism, I think I've read all, I love it, but I'm not a religious person. But the most wonderful book of the Bhagavad Gita that I've ever read, rare one, is this by Swami Purohit Swami, 1944. He took it to England because he has a friend called W.B. Yeats. Anyone knows?
Yeah.
Poet.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the most easy, comprehensible copy of the Gita that you can get. It's so easy to read, it's so easy to understand. When a man dwells on the object of sense, he creates an attraction for them. Attraction develops into desire, and desire breeds anger. Anger induces delusion. In delusion, loss of memory. Through loss of memory, reason is shattered, and loss of reason leads to destruction. Such an easy way to understand that chapter. But the self-controlled soul who moves among sense objects, free from either attachment or repulsion, he wins eternal peace. Some of the essence of the Gita, and this is the part I sort of like the most, that every time you get angry, you remember the Bhagavad Gita tells you don't get angry, because it's going to lead to loss of reason, right? The fountainhead, anyone? Okay, you are getting like 5 out of 5 so far, some of you. So the fountainhead you can read over a gap of 20 or 30 years and it will still shake you. You may not agree with Ayn Rand as you go on in your life, but it cannot stop shaking you and moving you in a profound way. And more than Howard Rogue, maybe Dominic's character could be even more complicated. When you're a young man, you say, is a woman like that? Right? But can there be so many divergent views of it? Right? When you love something dearly, do you want to throw it away and destroy it so that no one else shares it? Like a young kid who was 12 years old, I heard about a young child who went to this library for the underprivileged. She loved the book so much, but she didn't return it. And she didn't return it, and the librarian kept asking. And finally they found that she'd gone and thrown it in the river. And they asked her why. She said, I like it so much, I don't want to share it. That's Dominic, right? Stephen Covey is, The 7 Habits are a Bible on leadership for me. I've always loved it. Viktor Frankl, there are some amazing books whose titles tell you all. And if you really want to figure what's the purpose of life, which we all want to, but to listen to someone who lived in a concentration camp for so many years and rebuilt his life and how difficult it was, then you figure from that life, that how do you make purpose and meaning when you are sort of losing your moorings. Man's search for meaning, right? The last lecture is recent, Randy Bosch, but when somebody who's young and is dying of cancer and he wants to share what it means for his children and his life's lessons, it's poignant, it's powerful, but even the YouTube video. And today morning I got up and some books shouted at me saying, how could you take us out of the list? So I added a few. The Bridge Across Forever, love story, so powerful. And for those people like me who miss the boat of not reading enough fiction in their 40s and 60s, I would say read fiction and I encourage children to read fiction, because fiction is actually more powerful than non-fiction. It does things for you about human connections and empathy and sympathy and building bridges. So for me, Bridge Across Forever and the whole series is one of the most powerful human connections and love stories. Notes to myself is put there so that you don't win chocolates. Anyone read everything else? Anyone read everything else? Not Bridge Across Forever? So you get 3 chocolates. Clap please. Okay, so what a library is, right? Now, what a library is, you all know what it is, and you know, if we were smaller groups, we could have done this as an exercise, also less time, but ask your children what a library is. As children come, and I'll just go to the last part, which is about the possible things that you can do, because you're brainstorming today. So I'll give you certain ideas, but these are mine. There must be thousands of other ideas in your head. But do ask your children what the library is. It's feedback for you as library heads. What does it mean for you? And accept criticism, right? But you have to ask ourselves, what is a library? Is it a place where I'm accounting for books? Is it a place where I am responsible for all the books and get some new books? Or is it a place which will stimulate a deep learning culture among children? Second question, is it only children? Are you doing a great job if your teachers aren't reading in your school? You can't influence teachers unless the principal influences teachers, hopefully. Or maybe you can influence teachers by what you do in the library. Because if your teachers don't read and children read, it's no good. Jaisa Raja, Vaisa Praja. So what are you doing to make sure that you have a reading culture there? What are you doing to open it to parents of your school? How many schools are here whose libraries are open to parents? And how many are not open to parents? Okay. So it's worth considering, should the school library be open to parents? Yeah? It's worth considering, and you've got to figure that. But do ask. But I think one of the things we have to figure, even in libraries, is this deep question which is important for us: what is not Googleable and what is not ChatGPTable, is what libraries have to be, right? So you have to figure that in what you do in your library. What is not Googleable? Anyone? What is not Googleable other than Shivnara School? What's not Googleable? I found a new one. What's not Googleable? It cannot be future. 2024 में election कौन जीतेगा वो नहीं पूछ सकते. It cannot be personal. What's my grandfather's name? But something the world wants to know, but Google does not know. Yes. Yeah, but what's the question you would ask Google? How was XYZ? Okay, so I'm asking what's not Googleable or ChatGPT, which is a deep question. The whole of humanity wants to know it. But Google doesn't know, because algorithms and AI don't know those answers, which is what we as human beings have to figure. Yes? Taste of some food. Not sure. But you're right, maybe taste of food. But I'm not sure if it's humanity wants to know Golgappa kaisa taste hai. Pata nahi. Yes. True. True. If the Google does not know why I get angry when others don't get angry. Not just you, but it doesn't know. But there are larger questions. Yes. Yeah, the deeper questions, does God exist? Half of us believe in it, but there's no algorithmic AI proof to tell you that God exists. There's no evidence. Pardon? Is there something as soul? What happens to me after I die? Right? Life beyond death. So there are many things like that which Google doesn't know. I found something yesterday. Google doesn't know why I fall in love with that person. There's so many people. Right? But yesterday I found something really interesting. That how is it that others can tickle me but I can't tickle myself? Isn't it? Okay, so think of these things. These are all stuff you can do in your library. I'm not just taking you somewhere. These are stuff you can do in the library by putting a board out saying, write what Google doesn't know, which is a deep humanity question. But those are stuff you can do. Okay, what makes a great library? Do it as an exercise that's crowdsourced, but I'll just give you a few because I think I've been told my time is up. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? What's the library? It's a time capsule. Wonderful. It's a space for dialogue is wonderful because that's what it should be. Keep silent, don't talk is not necessarily a great library, right? It had its meaning, it may have meaning in research spaces and higher education in some corners, but it can be a space for dialogue. Yeah, what is a library? A window to the outside world. Do you have boards outside every day changing what's a library? It's the most noisiest space in the school. It should be the wonderful. Yeah. It's a knowledge house of. Okay, wonderful. Yeah. My favorite hangout. So, yes. It's a home away from home. Okay. So obviously it's a place where students and teachers should be loving to be there. Right? And that as a librarian, I'll only know if I have so many footfalls. So I'll see how many teachers are entering my library every day, every week, every month. And I'll tell my principal, listen, it's 30% not good enough. It's 60% I'm happy. Right? So that's how you'll figure. Do they love to be there when new worlds open up? Right? So you can have many definitions where there's action and activity. It's come from you, right? It doesn't have to be this quiet place. And there's excitement and curiosity. So I think during your day-long sessions, that's what we should figure, how we're going to do it. But I'll just throw a few things. Obviously, you will have authors who come and read books. You should have young authors of your own school also having reading, and others listening and saying, why did you make this character this way, and having stuff like that. You should have parent volunteers. To thousands of parents, hundreds of parents, there would be enough parents who would say, come as volunteer. Yesterday I heard there's something called a book hospital. Never heard of it before. Wonderful. Book hospital. Yeah, so I've got a couple of books which need hospitalization by the way. So I heard of it yesterday. Short book reviews by students. Something I noticed in trips to certain London schools was, you know, as the books are stacked, there are little reviews chosen by the librarian, done by the children, sometimes done by the teachers, and children enthused by saying, oh, Manjima ma'am read this book and therefore it must be interesting, she put a little review. So, you know, that's a practice. Those are things that you can consider. Quotes of the day, right? I love quotes and what they mean, but for children it can mean a lot. The easy ones are like, a stitch in time saves 9, but there could be wonderful ones from Kabir and from our own history and mythology and use quotes and explain them, but they see a new quote and they get new meanings. For example, I love this one which says, a ship is safest in the harbor, but that's not what ships are meant for. It means take risks in your life. Right? Because you have to do what you're supposed to do. So there's a meaning and people can come up and ask what's the meaning of this quote, but you could put things like that. As I said, principal's recommendation review will always be powerful for children. Oh, our principal reads this and she read this, or teachers' reviews. Book hospital. You know, I don't know if we do enough of this, but there are many homes now which has overflowing with books, but you should have corners where people can drop books and say, I don't need this, give it to the community, give it to somebody else. Right? And when they see a collection growing and they know that this is being used for the Chaproli village library, more and more books will come. Right? But it's a drop box for books. inside the library. There should be also, for example, I'm giving away 10 free books. Imagine how popular the librarian can become. Right? Instead of putting them out in Kabaddi and selling books which you don't need, and from the drop books you can pick 10 and say, these are books I'm giving away to children. Right? And somebody autographs it, or get the principal or the vice principal, someone to sort of autograph. So there are many such things, but broadly do something new every week. Right? Do something new every week so that it's a place which is lively. But these are just some of the things I thought through, but I'm sure during the course of the day you will have many. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy to share some thoughts. I feel very nice to be here. Oh, I didn't share with you. This is one of my father's books. That's okay. He was a political scientist. This is something which I thought I will gift you. This is some of the most beautiful libraries in the world. But something happened today morning, which happens to all book lovers. They give away books and they take it back. I'm only going to show it to you. Maybe I'll leave it for you. But it has some of the most stunning libraries and books which are here. I also, so I'm seriously not going to give it to you. But we'll discuss it. Maybe I'll change my mind during the day. Maybe it'll find a better place if it's with you than to be at my home. But there are some wonderful things I noticed in, ChatGPT is wonderful. What are the sort of records you can do in the library? So one of them says 2,000 books in, that sequence of following. We can do better than 2,000 books in your big corridor from here to the IB block. And we could try and get to the records. But there's a librarian who's been a librarian for 50 years. That's a world record. Anyone wants to try and break it? Okay, breathing. All right, thank you so much.